Welcome to this week's edition of RPPV News, bringing you all the news from across the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Lisa Lenoble.
And I'm Jo Violetta. Our top stories for this week are flu epidemic hits the Mornington Peninsula, trapdoor spider invasion in Pakenham, good and bad news for Frankston line users, and really good brew sees 5,000 people attend Mornington's first beer festival. We also have a special guest in our studio for an interview today, Peter Murphy, our local member for Dunkley. But first, the news.
The Mornington Peninsula is in the midst of a flu epidemic, with over 1,700 people struck down in one of the worst seasons in recent history. More than 60,000 people have been affected across Victoria, claiming 121 lives so far. This is more than 12 times as many cases as were reported at the same time last year. Experts say this is due to the season starting earlier than usual, before injections began.
Pakenham people have been warned to check their backyards and keep pets indoors after a local woman discovered her backyard had been infested by hundreds of trapdoor spiders. Dozens of people in surrounding suburbs responded to her Facebook post, adding their own images and videos of burrows they'd discovered. While their bites are painful, they're not lethal to humans. Small pets are more vulnerable, so should be kept away.
A recent survey by the Victorian Department of Transport found that passengers on the Frankston line are experiencing the crush of peak hour in the afternoons. 5.9% of trains in the afternoon are packed with more than 900 passengers, compared with 3% a year ago. 900 people is considered the most you can have on a train before it becomes uncomfortable. The good news is that Frankston Line has one of the most comfortable morning rides, with no morning peak trains crowded past 900 people. Frankston isn't the worst line. The honour goes to Craigieburn, which is the most packed for both morning and afternoon services.
A 21-year-old Frankston man is lucky to be alive after a one-punch counter-attack in Frankston. Head of the Crime Investigation Unit, Detective Senior Sergeant Steve McKenzie, said it was feared the young man had suffered a fractured skull. It was a serious assault and could have killed him, said Senior Sergeant McKenzie. The offender is described as in his late teens to early 20s, olive complexion, with a broad nose and prominent dark eyebrows, dark hair, and wearing a black hoodie. If you have any information for police, please call Crime Stoppers on 1300 333 000.
And now for our special interview with member for Dunkley, Peter Murphy.
I'm delighted to welcome our local member for Dunkley, Peter Murphy. Ms Murphy, thank you for joining us on RPPV. Ms Murphy, congratulations on your win. You're in your first 5 months in Canberra, which is a long way away from Frankston, more than just geographically. How do you manage to stay so real and so connected to your constituents?
Well, I think there's probably two answers to that. One is you actually just have to be a real person in to do well, I think, in politics. And I think part of people's disaffection with politics and politicians is that people who are trying to pretend that they're someone that they're not. So I'm trying very hard within all the airplane flights and cars picking me up and, people wanting to come and talk to me about things, to just try to always remain true to myself.
You represent an electorate named after a feminist who campaigned for equal pay in the public service, Louisa Dunkley. How far do you think we've progressed towards Louisa's vision?
I think that, obviously things are remarkably different and much better in 2019 than they were in 1902, when Louisa got an equal pay provision in the Commonwealth Public Service Act, but we still have a long way to go. I'm the first woman to ever represent Dunkley in the Federal Parliament. A seat named after a woman who was a unionist, a feminist, and stood up for community. So that's something I'm incredibly proud of. But across the country, women still earn less than men. There's a gender pay gap in every industry and every occupation. Even in industries which are feminised and dominated by women, so childcare, for example, cleaning, aged care, women are still paid less than men. and men still dominate managerial and CEO roles. So whilst there's no doubt that we've made great leaps forward, and there's been equal pay cases over the years that have gone a long way, there is still work to be done. And one of the things that Louisa said, and I quoted this in my first speech in Parliament, is that first she started campaigning for equal pay so that the women who were working side by side with the men got paid what they were worth. But then the campaign for equal pay continued so that the work was valued for what it was worth. And I think that's a really important thing for us to think about and hold on to. Yes, it's about women and women's equality and valuing women, but it's also about making sure that the work is paid what it's worth. And aged care work, childcare work is fundamentally important. Looking after the most vulnerable people at the start and towards the end of their lives needs to be valued appropriately.
Now, you've just been to a local school, the Nepean school, and they've just launched a really interesting project with this amazing combi van. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So for those who don't know, the Nepean Special School is a school for children who have intellectual and physical disabilities, and there are some children there who are profoundly disabled. A lot of them are wheelchair bound. It is the most amazing, happy, magical place. The staff there are some of the most caring and interesting and innovative people I have ever met. I think I've been there, 4 or 5 times since I got elected, and the children, when you talk to them and their faces light up with interaction. They came up with this project with people who were doing work for the Dole, actually, who came out and built an enormous cubby in the playground, but it's a combi van on the outside, and it's been painted, with rainbows and peace signs and happy smiling faces, and then inside is a cubby house. And so I went out there with Paul Edbrook. We were invited to do the launch of it this morning, and I didn't want to leave. That's why I was a little bit late for this interview, really, because it's just such a special place. For those who don't know about that school, they should know about it. And these children, the looks on their faces, and one of the teachers was playing a ukulele, and little kids were dancing, and just the amazing teachers who were helping, kids who communicate by pointing to pictures in a book to show what their emotion is, and they were all pointing to the happy faces and doing little dances. And I tell you, this job is a privilege. This job is an absolute privilege, and mornings like this morning, best thing you can ever do.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Hopefully I'll get to be a regular guest.
A carjacking occurred in Mount Eliza in late September after an attempted robbery of an ATM at Coringal Hub Shopping Centre. Police believe 4 men drove to Coringal in a stolen car and unsuccessfully tried to drag the ATM away. It's alleged the same group then forced a man out of a car on Humphreys Road in Mount Eliza 2 hours later. The car was then found burnt out a short time later in Frankston South. To date, no arrests have been made.
Repair work has begun on historic Frankston Pier, which was damaged by wild storms in early August. Among crashing waves, the end of the 150-year-old pier broke off and drifted into shore. The Victorian government has come up with a construction plan, and Parks Victoria will use recycled and salvageable material to fix the damage.
Local homeless teenagers have built an amazing new cubby house for the Nepean School in Seaford, a specialist school for children with physical disabilities and/or complex health impairment. We have a special report from one of their teachers, Cheryl Cantley.
So this is our combi cubby house at the Nepean Special School. We're here at the Nepean School and we are launching an amazing Combi Cubby, and it is something that has been a dream of our gardener Sean Fox for some time. He just had this vision, and then he got in touch with the Work for the Doll program, Skills Plus, and they in turn got a group of at Envision where there were unemployed kids who got together, and every single brush stroke that you can see on here is created by a kid with some sort of difficulty. It's amazing. When you get closer up, you'll see a galah, for example. One kid, he had just never even picked up a paintbrush. They said, how about you have a go? And he did. And so this is all Sean's dream, and now it's an absolute reality. And we're just totally thrilled. We're having Peter Murphy come and open it with us, and Paul Edbrook, our local MPs, and it's a very, very exciting day here for us. And when the kids are here, the noise that you heard when these kids first saw this go into the playground, it was absolutely enormous, and we could not be more grateful. At the Nepean School, we have kids with all kinds of different needs. We have many with cerebral palsy. We have autistic kids. There are kids that are double lung recipients, vision impaired, all kinds. And behind me, you'll see this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous bubble wall. Now, this is a pride and joy of our school. We got that through a grant. A beautiful philanthropic organisation gave us this wall, and it's something that's very, very lovely and soothing for particularly kids with autism. There's lots of waiting to do. If you can just imagine being one of these kids, you've got to wait for the bus to arrive, then you get strapped into the bus. You've got to wait for the journey and stop with all your friends as they all get dropped off or picked up in the morning, and then somebody waits for you and takes you to your classroom, and then you have to wait for everyone to be in the classroom. So this wall is something that just helps to distract and helps to soothe those kids. And again, the level of excitement when this wall went in, and that was installed by our lovely Sean, the next morning the noise was absolutely magnificent. Here is the Combi Cubby, and I'll take you inside. As you can see at the moment, it's a blank slate, so the kids can come in here and they can create beautiful colours. We have the dashboard is here, so that it's a reminder of what's happening on the outside. But this is the Combi Cubby. We can come in here when it's raining, and also when it's really, really sunny. The wheelchairs can come in through the door, and we can have music therapy in here, which is a very big part of what we do at the Nepean Special School. The roof is a recycled roof, so it's second-hand material, but what Envision have done is the holes have all been plugged up so it's completely waterproof. The outside, you can't see it, but there's an invisible coating. About 4 coats have gone over the top of a protective paint so it won't fade in the sunshine, and it's looked after. That is the beautiful galah that I was talking about, which has been created by a kid who's never held a paintbrush before in his life and just said, I'll have a go, which he did, and it's absolutely stunning. The number plate, Nepean 1, and of course the Nepean Special School is number 1. We've got 135 or so kids here. About 90% of those kids are in wheelchairs, and of those there'd be about 90% who are non-verbal, so we have a whole different way of communicating with them. So music is a really big part of what we do, and music will go inside as well. It's just an artwork. Of course, everybody can speak when they have something visual to look at. It's art. It's very important here. I'm Shez Cantley. I'm the grant writer at the Nepean Special School. With me is Sean Fox.
Hello.
Hiya, Sean. And Sean is our maintenance guru, god of all things brilliant that happen around the school. Sean had a dream, and your dream was to create a Combi Cubby.
Yep.
And the first time you saw it, I'd like to know, Sean, when you went to the factory to see this as it was in progress, how did you feel when you first saw it?
Well, it exceeded all my expectations. It was wonderful. Sean approached us and said, what can we do for you? And I said a Combi Cubby would be wonderful. Didn't expect it to be this big or look this good, so it's lovely.
Yeah, and I think the stories that go with it, with each of these images, just even looking here, the sorts of kids who've done this are now anonymous. They've all moved on, and we were hoping that they could have joined us. And what sorts of things do you think are going to happen in the cubby for the kids?
Well, I was just hoping to provide a bit of colour for the kids and something a little bit different. I mean, we all love combis.
Yeah.
So, I hope they have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what was it like the first time that you saw the kids gather around when this was being put up piece by piece?
Yeah, it was wonderful. There's lots of yelling and clapping, and yeah, it was good to see.
So we just want to thank Sean for his amazing dream and then Envision for putting it together, and all those amazing unemployed kids. You've done such a great job, and I hope you're all watching.
5,000 people attended Mornington Peninsula's first Brewers Festival at the Mornington Racecourse. More than a dozen local craft brewers joined forces to put their best brew forward. RPPV was there to capture the event.
When I looked into it, I thought, well, maybe it's not possible. Hello. Hi. I tried Dank and Juicy. Is that a new one? It is, yeah, fresh release.
And now, the market report with David Robinson.
Australia's official cash rate is now down to 0.75%, a quarter of the emergency rate we had in the GFC of 3%. So where to now for housing, for stock markets and the broader economy? The cut in the cash rate to another record low was widely expected and comes in the midst of no progress in trade negotiations, more evidence of a weakening manufacturing sector around the world, and further falls locally in consumer and business sentiment. Overseas, the German economy, the fourth largest in the world, is teetering on recession, caught between trade wars with the US on cars and with the UK on Brexit. But for Australia, it's still our largest trading partners in China and Japan that are the key to how trade conflict will impact our economy. Japan's economy is suffering from the trade tensions even more than expected, based on yesterday's Tankan business survey, and China's deceleration is well documented. As the chart shows, the official GDP rate is down to 6.2%, and unofficial proxy estimates are closer to 5%. But the Chinese administration have monetary and fiscal ammunition up their sleeves, unlike much of the rest of the world. So expect more stimulus measures from China in the months ahead. Here, the RBA have come to the party with another rate cut. However, as they have noted, monetary policy will need other measures to be effective. The federal budget is now effectively balanced and set for a healthy surplus this financial year. So, for wages growth to pick up, we may need further fiscal stimulus rather than just RBA rate cuts. The surplus comes at a cost. The one thing that rate cuts have delivered quickly is a return to rising housing prices, with an impressive 1.1% rise in the capital cities index in September, and Sydney and Melbourne up 1.4% over the month, although other capitals and regional prices were more stable. But overall, we continue to forecast a soft landing for housing. Our other core forecasts this year have been falling global interest rates amid the trade wars, and also a falling Australian dollar, mainly driven by a strong US dollar and a slowing Chinese economy. And more recently, a liquidity squeeze in the States has added to this demand for US dollars. So the Aussie dollar decline probably has another down leg left in it prior to the US economy's slowdown next year starting to turn the tide. Lower interest rates will keep encouraging investors into other asset classes beyond cash and bonds, especially into property and stocks. So, with more rate cuts expected next year here and around the world, and an era of ultra-low rates implied by bond yields, stocks are back in demand here and overseas, with our ASX 200 index and the US indices back near record highs, for now. Although some Asian markets are doing it tougher due to geopolitical tensions. As for our broader economy, GDP growth slowed to 1.4% last quarter as expected, but that may be the low ebb prior to the rate cuts, tax cuts, and the lower Aussie dollar coming to the rescue. Other advanced economies overseas may not have as much going for them. And that's the market update from Bendigo Bank.
Do you like to move it, Joe?
I like to move it.
Well, the federal government's Move It Oz campaign is offering a boost to local swimming clubs and schools. They are being encouraged to apply for Swimming Australia's community grants of up to $10,000. This is great news in light of a recently released report that 1 in 3 Australian adults is now clinically obese. Flinders MP Greg Hunt said the grants will provide aquatic facilities on the peninsula with opportunities to help people swim.
And over to our sports report with Neil Wiggins.
Neil Williams here from RPPV Cricket. I'm at the Mornington cricket ground. You can see behind us the new nets, and I'm talking with Lee Garnett, the president, the smiling, happy president, because, gee, those nets have come up really well, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, Neil. I'm really, really happy. It's been a huge effort over the last 12 months.
Yep.
It's pretty much 12 months to the day since we learnt that we were going to apply for it, and they're all pretty much done and dusted now. So it's been a huge effort through, quite a few people.
What are the major improvements that have happened there?
Well, the major improvements we've had, before we had 4 nets plus the 1 public.
Yep.
Now we've gone to 5 and the 1 public, so we've got 6 nets basically all in total.
And it's well grassed, artificial turf
well
at the
grassed,
back, which is
full
nice.
run-ups.
Yeah, perfect.
So it's made. We've got obviously the drawstrings nets through there as well, which we
Very
can
nice.
retract as well. So we can actually have game planning in there as well.
Beautiful.
Set out for the juniors also. So we've put a lot of thought into it.
And you've probably seen in the back there that there's another little bit of construction by Mr. Philip Pony doing all that, which is you're going to use for storage.
Yes, we are. We've got a big storage shed coming that we'll be able to lock up to the back of the nets there, and then we can store all our gear in there, etc. So when it comes time for training, we can just roll that up, pull out the bowling machines, etc., and it's all there ready to go.
And you want to thank some people for this, because it's been a lot of hard work in the background.
The Pick My Project people have been absolutely fantastic. The government grant we got, they've been so helpful through it all.
Lee Garnett, great job as president.
Thank you.
Hope the year continues well for you.
Nice.
And thanks for the chat.
No problems at all. Thank you very much, Neil.
A Mount Eliza man has been charged after trading his PlayStation for an exotic snake over Facebook. The reptile was a milk snake, a species illegal in Australia as they carry serious diseases. He pleaded guilty and was fined $500. And now over to Muzz for Bass Surfboard's Surf Report.
This is our first surf report for the season.
Morning and welcome to the Mornington Peninsula Surf Report. Typical mid-spring conditions at the moment, southeasterly winds blowing, slight improvement in the surf today. This week the best days of waves will be probably tomorrow morning before the wind comes back up. Sunday, where we'll get an offshore breeze but a definite drop in swell. Slight increase Monday with improved waves, but then a late change probably coming through Monday into Tuesday. Swell increase, but fairly average conditions for the next week. Pretty typical of spring, southeasterly winds, sea breezes, so we take what we can get at this time of year.
And now over to the weather with Lisa Lenoble.
Lisa Lenoble with the Mornington Peninsula 5-day forecast this Friday, the 11th of October. Let's take a look at what this week has in store for us. So on Friday, we have a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 18, partly cloudy, slight chance of shower, winds east to southeasterly, 30 to 45 kilometres an hour. On Saturday, a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 19, mostly sunny, winds easterly, 25 to 35 kilometres an hour. On Sunday, a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 20. Mostly sunny morning, although cloud increasing later, slight chance of showers, chiefly in the afternoon and evening, winds east to northeasterly, 15 to 25 kilometres an hour during the day, and then becoming east to northeasterly, 15 to 20 kilometres an hour during the evening. On Monday, we have a minimum of 9 and a maximum of a beautiful 23 degrees, mostly sunny, partly cloudy, chance of shower, winds northeasterly 15 to 20 kilometres an hour, turning northerly 15 to 25 kilometres an hour during the morning. On Tuesday, we have a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 18, partly cloudy, medium chance of showers, chiefly later in the day, light winds becoming southwesterly 15 to 25 kilometres an hour during the morning. And Wednesday, we have a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 16, partly cloudy, 50% chance of showers, winds southerly 15 to 25 kilometres an hour, turning southwesterly 15 to 20 kilometres an hour later. I'm Lisa Lenoble. That's it for this week's weather. Enjoy the spring weather, and why not attend to that garden? That's it for this edition of RPPV News. I'm Lisa Lenoble.
And I'm Jo Violetta, bringing you the news from coast to coast across the Mornington Peninsula. We hope to see you next time.
Bye.